Hey, we back. We live. Everybody put your hands up a little bit. I got company. I got guests. We back in the house. So let me shout out my fantabulous young man I got up here who is, let's just tell the truth. He's the brains at Five Reasons. I said it. I said it.
I said it.
Ain't nobody up here
I would.
denying it.
I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
This is Troppy
Ooh.
Baby Erasure.
Try. We got Brady Hawk in the house. Brady, say what's up to the people.
What's going on? Thank you guys for having me again. Appreciate y'all.
Mm. And I got my guy Frankie G. Frankie, I mean, your Marlins are crap. Your Dolphins look okay. Go ahead, say something.
Hello to you too, Tiffany.
Ah,
Glad
I
to,
got my.
glad to be here for right now.
Are you all right? All right, all right. I got
For
my girl
now.
Shy in the house. Y'all know her as Bond, as everybody like to call her, but that's my girl Shy. Shy, say what's up with the people.
What's poppin', Tiff? Hello, people. It's been a minute. Happy to be back. Let's get these reps in
All
before the
right.
season pops off.
I got my guy Brian, shadow producer. Brian, say what's up to the people.
What's up, people? What's up, people?
And I want to say two things before we get started. One, the Bears are 1-0, so y'all can suck it. Even
Hilarious.
if we lose every game from now on out, we won that first one. That's all that matters.
First
Screaming.
Right?
pick.
Two, let me say what's up to all my St. Louis Cardinals fans. I know. It's coming. It's coming. 700 is coming. And just like that, I know y'all mad. So let me slide right on into the heat talk before y'all be like, that's what we paid for. That's what we want to talk about. That's why we mad, because we didn't get Donovan Mitchell. Ooh. All right, listen, we ain't getting Donovan Mitchell. Okay? It's over.
Praise God.
All right, so today's episode. So I kind of want to do something different because we got what we got, and that's what we got. So this is what we're going to stick to. We're not looking in the cupboards. We're not looking across the street. We're not looking for anything else because the way it stands, this is what it looks like we're rolling into the season with. All right, so that's it. So I kind of wanted to think about it, and I wanted to base this episode on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And basically, he thinks there's five levels of needs for people to kind of function successfully in society, and just to kind of be a productive person. So I kind of want to take that and turn that into what do we think the Miami Heat's hierarchy of needs are? And I basically went to the panel and I said, all right, everybody bring me five, and we're going to go around and we're going to discuss it. And right now, so Brady, I'm going to start with you. Hit us up with your five needs.
Okay, so I might have gone in a different direction because I feel like I went really specific because I
It's
just feel
okay.
like that's necessary. But uh, I got to get the first one out of the way, and I just got to say, find the front court piece. And I hate talking. I know this. We're talking about this roster right now, but as we know, as it stands, they can't go into the playoffs with this roster. I do believe they can get to February, but I don't think they can go into the postseason. So if that's on the roster, great. I don't believe it is, but let's just say Haywood Highsmith, mini PJ Tucker evolves, or Caleb Martin puts on 20 pounds, or Omer becomes a 38% shooter. Like if one of those things happens, great. But other than
Okay.
that, you need to find a four. So that would probably be my first one. My second one is just pressure points, which there's two main ones I want to hit on. Is first, Victor Oladipo's rim pressure. I think is probably more important than anything on this Heat offense, just heading into next season. And the other pressure point I think is it's something that's being talked about a little bit, but I think it needs to be talked about more, is Kyle Lowry's perimeter kind of pressure. And in the way
Mm,
where we keep talking about the way where they go under a screen and he has to pull it. That
mm-hmm.
can't be the case next year. Like this is a team that's going to lean offense. If they go under the screen, Kyle Lowry has to take the shot. Like that's just the
Mm,
way it is. I saw Leighton's last season. I saw in the postseason. Gabe Vincent was willing to take that shot. He was willing to take that shot every time he saw a defender go under.
mm-hmm.
So if they can kind of get to that point, I don't think they're going to get to a point where they're chasing him over, but make them respect it if they're going to go under. So my third one,
Okay.
it's something I've been talking about a lot recently, which is I think they need to expand on their motion offense in general. They're a movement team. Like they're going to move just bodies are going to move and do all of that. But you're basically saying PJ Tucker is out of the equation and you're rolling with the same team as the regular season, except you're swapping in Victor Oladipo as another creator. If you're
Mm-hmm.
going to have this many creators on the roster, you've got to move. And you're not going to be Golden State because you don't have the two greatest shooters ever. But you can move a lot in a way where you can provide off-ball rim pressure. You can just be a team that wants to play, make, create, shoot for themselves. So we know what they are, but I just think they need to expand on that in general. I think we do see that. I'll say my fourth one is Hero or Bam just breaking away from the pack. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think if we're talking about needs, maybe they could be okay if, like, let's just say Tyler, Bam, Jimmy, and Depot are kind of in that same range of points. But I think if we're talking about needs and kind of being successful, if one of these guys breaks away from the pack, and you're saying you don't want Jimmy Butler being in the kind of leading scorer role of the regular season, you just don't, I think, at this stage. So if one of those guys could break away, let's just say, I hate talking about points per game, but breaks away in points per game, I feel like you're in a really successful spot just looking back at this season.
Okay.
And then my fifth one, I've won a lot of offense in this defensive team, so I'll say I think the fifth one that they need is just a revolving door of defenses. Like when you look at this current roster, they lost PJ Tucker. They can't switch as much. Like I think it's pretty simple, at least to start the season. They just can't do that. I think when Bam's in there with the current starting lineup, go drop. Like I keep remembering the play when he played Chicago, and I think it was a switch on that specific play, but he was guarding Kobe White, turned around and made the block at the rim as he threw the lob pass. Like him in drop is still a dangerous defender. Like he's a very dangerous defender even in drop. But I don't think this even just pertains to just Bam. Like I've been talking about, I think the zone off the bench is going to be important because you have Omer that can kind of be glued in that zone. You have Gabe and kind of Caleb or whoever it is, Depot playing the top of a 2-2-1 press. Like this is a team that is going to be small, but they can speed you up. And I think they just have to keep changing just defensive schemes in general, which Spo has done in the past. But I may have rambled there, so you guys could hop off that. I guess some of the stuff I said, but those are kind of the five things I think they need.
Okay. All right. So Shy, I want to go to you first because I know based on what Brady just said, you got a list of things that just probably just kept popping up. So go ahead.
Okay, so my list, and they don't really deviate much from Brady's. Maybe my order is a bit different, or maybe my wording is a bit different. So 5, right? 5 is the biggest piece of that, and then we go up to 1, or 5 is the piece that has to happen first before we get to 1, right? So 5 for me is internal growth, right? This is, like you said, we have who we have. We're not going out. We're not getting anyone else, at least at the moment. And so what we have on rosters is what we're rolling into camp with, right? Whatever it is that you need from Tyler, whatever it is that you need from someone like a Gabe, and whatever Caleb can give you growth wise at the front court, we'll address that also. Then I think that's what I think that has to be your baseline, because that is what you have, that is what you started with, and like I said, this is kind of what you have. 4 for me would be, I think Yurt has to. I'm saying Yurt because Brady mentioned about whether or not that front court piece is on the roster or not. People can agree, disagree, whatever. I'm going to rock with, I feel like that piece is on the floor. I do want to see Bam play more of it. I know the dialogue between whether Bam and Yurt can coexist revolves around whether or not Yurt can shoot. I feel like, why can't we be asking Bam to shoot? Both of them, however it plays out, there needs to be length next to Bam to help him. And a little bit back on my internal growth too, a little bit if this is how we're presently constructed, I need defensive leaps from a Duncan. I need Tyler to be better defensively because we are small in the front court. And so if you have those guys there, then they can't be, turnstiles because, we're thinner in the back line. 3 for me, I like Brady's point with pressure points. And I'll just say kind of Vic. I think so. We lost PJ. We didn't make any other moves, but Vic has been there in season acquisition for the last 2 seasons now. And coming into the playoffs of last season or whatever, he only played 8 games, and people, there's been much to say about what his comfort or whatever looked like. And I've been on record and kind of, I don't think that he was used in the best way, but I don't think that they had time to really incorporate him in the best ways that suit his strengths, right? We had Vic in the corner, for catch and shoot opportunities, and not that he can't knock that down, but that is not the strength. That is not what we think of when we think of a Victor Oladipo. The meat is back on the bone, right? The surgery, all that's cool. And so now let's get him integrated in the way that maximizes him and that allows you to play him with a Tyler, with a Max or whatever, and not this like dueling DJ battle of like kind of whose turn. Two for me, as we're climbing up here, I think it has to be a more offensive minded Bam. That doesn't necessarily, and this is just for me, that doesn't mean Bam has to go necessarily out here shooting threes. That doesn't mean I need him taking 17 jump shots from 15 feet out or more a game, but just an understanding that they do need an offense from him. They need a level of assertiveness. And yes, he's made strides. He's made marginal improvements in all of his percentages and all of that. But it has to click this season that, like, oh shit, we kind of need me to. It can't be like, it's not a luxury anymore. It has to kind of be a little bit more of a default. Like, it can't be like, Bam's playing stellar defense, and like if he gives you whatever his numbers, then not that that's cherries on top, but again, it has to feel for me a little bit more like a default. And after we've hit all those, again, if this is our roster, if this is what we're going to look like, then yeah, I think we need health. Like, Kyle can slim down as much as he want, and I love that, and I'm very excited to see kind of what a smaller, hopefully a lighter Kyle looks like, right? But his age is his age, and taking some weight off does take some pressure off the joints and all of that. But like, okay, you're smaller. Can we stay healthy? Jimmy is going to miss time just being, kind of Jimmy. I think Kyle misses time. We saw Bam miss time last year, and some of the missed time is good so that the rest of the pieces can figure out how to gel and how to do the things. But I think that of course, as we push further down into the season, health is the top of that pyramid for me, and not the least important, but as the base kind of fulfills itself, then the top comes.
Okay. Frankie G.
I was wondering who was on the Heat Beat chat account, and then we see "Don't call my man old and fat," so we know it's G.
Oh, we know who
God
it is.
damn it.
We know who it is. We know who
Well,
it is.
it's sort of in his defense, the first two times was me through the account, and then I saw he started texting. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be,
Okay.
mistaken for G, so I went to mine.
Okay. I a lot of mines overlap with Brady and Siobhan. My number one is prioritize 13 and 14, making the game easier for both of them. We saw a lot of growth from Tyler last season, a lot of what he could do, flashes, but the game was still too hard. It was too much isolation, too much stuff that he had to create his own shot, and he converted a lot of contested looks and a lot of tough shots, but that only lasted for a stretch. He came back down to earth second half of the season. Playoffs, he battled injuries and different looks in the playoffs and stuff, but making the game easy for him, prioritizing Bam in the regular season. I'm so tired of the first play of the game always being for Duncan or Max or somebody else. I want to see first play of the game, get Bam a shot, get him going, get him prioritized. Sometimes I love Spo. Sometimes he coaches these guys like they're LeBron and Wade in some ways, and they expect the stars are going to get theirs no matter what. I got to get my role players going, and these guys have not established themselves in that role, in that mindset in this league. So I want to make it as easy as possible. There's going to be growing pains. They haven't been through played in that role and heavily guarded like that for their careers, and heavily in a top 3 scoring role like that in the playoffs. I want to see it all regular season, because when playoffs come, it's not, love all these guys, love all these role players, but it's not Max who we need 20 a game from. It's not Caleb. It's not Gabe. It's not Kyle anymore. It's those two. Those two will take us as far as we'll go. I put for second one was find a fifth. I don't care who it is. I don't care what position it is. We can talk if it's a 5, if it's a tweener, if they're on the roster or off the roster. I don't care what it is. Somebody needs to be that reliable guy next to Kyle, Tyler, Jimmy, Bam, because I think we all know that's going to be those 4 end of the games, end of the day when shit gets going. I like versatility. I think we have some versatility on the roster. I would love some versatility in size, because every team that wins the championship can play big or small, and we've committed to only playing small for the last 2 years. And we've had success in it. I just think it's not viable to do it all the time when everyone else is doing it. Both ways. I put Bubble Jimmy. You can say that as bubble playoffs. I'm talking put him in a bubble suit, keep him close to 100% for the playoffs. We've seen what he can do when he's healthy. The 2 times he's been healthy in Miami for the playoffs, incredible. The one time he went in banged up, having to do too much during the regular season. We saw what the Milwaukee Bucks did to him. I say roll call number 4. The role players need to continue to grow. They are no longer unknowns. They were the 1 seed. They earned home court. They did all this stuff, but they're on the scouting report now. They're gonna be asked to do it again because like Bond said, Jimmy's gonna miss his time every year. Kyle's missing time as he's older. Bam's been missing time. Tyler misses time every year.
Tyler misses time. Yep.
Yeah, they did a great job. Can they do it again? And then my last one, Kyle Fit. No croquetas for Kyle. I love what I'm seeing. I want to see this new style of play from him, like how his body reacts to it. He's used to guarding bigger guys and stuff, but I want to see a little more quickness, more decisiveness. But on a serious note, he's so important to this team, what this team does on both ends, getting them organized, getting the young guys confidence and stuff. I would love to see, but I also would love to see more of him. Like Brady was talking about him pulling the trigger offensively and stuff. When we got Kyle and we talked about getting Kyle, I was ecstatic for Bam and Tyler to get easier looks. And Bam had more unassisted field goals than he ever had in his career, percentage-wise. So it was the opposite of what I was expecting. Get him a guard, get him going to the rim, get him easy looks and stuff. And but we need Kyle to be more. And I think him being in shape, him being more aggressive, looking for his shot, is going to open the floor more for him and everyone else.
All right, I agree. I do disagree with you on one thing, Frankie. Don't you ever come out your face talk about Max like that again.
So
Don't you ever doubt him. But it's interesting though, because all those things, they do go back to 2 things that we need. You need the internal growth, and you do need to figure out who that person will be next to Bam. Whether you figure it out now or you're figuring it out at the trade deadline, right? But let's talk about the now and the roster. So digging around, it seems to me these were the 3 names that most people seem to talk about who should be starting next to Bam. And this is the order basically. So I'm hearing Jimmy, Caleb, and Highsmith. This is what I'm hearing. So we're gonna start with Jimmy. We have a couple of clips from each guy in the quote unquote 4 spot, but at this point, it's all positionless. If you let somebody else tell you. So let's go the clips, and we're gonna roll with Jimmy. All right. So this is Jimmy here at the top. So I listen. I don't mind Jimmy in that spot, but I if it's the regular season, I need that to be few and far between. I don't need Jimmy starting at the 4, and most nights I don't need him ending at the 4. Like I don't want him banging against anybody. I don't want him down there. I don't want him down there trying to box out bigs. Like that's just me.
I think it's matchup dependent.
It's matchup dependent, and most of the matchups are not dependent on Jimmy needing to be there. That's how I look at it.
When I'm thinking about what they need at the 4 spot in the lineup, I think mostly defensively. And well,
See,
I don't know.
I think defensively and length. That's
Yes,
what I think.
and length, right? And it's not to say that Jimmy can't or won't or whatever, but just like you said, like I want his life to be made easier. Like I to make shit easier for this guy. Like that, he's busted his butt. And again, it's not that he can't do it. It's just like let's bubble him until we get further down.
Right.
Shout out to me for bubbling.
There you
Shout
go.
out to you
Look,
for
Duncan at
bubbling.
the 4. Alf was right all along.
Cut it
What do you
out.
think, Brady?
I think look at the last clip that you just showed. It just shows the difference in movement. When I was talking about movement before, like if they're gonna that last lineup that you showed was Tyler, Depot, Strus, Jimmy, and Bam. Like if you're gonna have that many creators on the floor, you have to have movement. Now, on that play, they did have movement, and Jimmy was kind of the results of that. But I just feel like that's the key to this all. Like on the second one you just showed, it's more of Jimmy kind of standing, kind of passing around. Like once it gets to that point, I think it's problematic. Like when you look at the Hero, Depot, Butler lineups in general of the postseason. They looked really good when they were moving and looked very, very bad when it was ISO ball and kind of Tyler and Depot watching. So it's so dependent, I feel like, in these lineups. If you're going to put Jimmy at the 4, I agree, though. I think it's more defensively. I don't worry about what they could do offensively. Like, I feel like there's enough there. I feel like they could stretch opposing 4s out if they want to go and pull a 4 into pick and roll coverages. Like, it makes these other teams adjust in general. So I feel like I trust the creation around him enough on this team, I think, for them to make it work offensively, I'll say.
Brady, that first clip, right? When you say movement, I agree with you, but I think more so from the guard spot and how you integrate the guards. Go back to the first one, Brian. Like that's not really necessarily movement. That's Depot recognizing his man is overplaying, and I'm just making a beeline. Like I want to see like intentional incorporation of the Depot, Tyler, Jimmy lineup.
I want to see more sets, I guess. Like that's what the kind of the point is. Like more sets they can run for them. And like right here, if you're just looking at this play, Tyler and Jimmy are kind of on this weak side, he screens backdoor for Tyler and he creates movement there. And then all of a sudden there's a bit of a mix up because like that's the stuff that creates these open looks and that's what maximizes these type of lineups. So that's kind of what I expect. Like the thing is in training camp, like usually they keep saying chemistry, and I know it gets cliche when you keep talking about like chemistry. But the point of chemistry is that you don't have to work on base stuff. Like they know what's happening here. It's all about expansion now. And this is the stuff you expand upon in training camp. So it's kind of, I just feel like movement is just the biggest thing, I guess, in training camp offensively, because me personally, maybe that's another topic, but I think Jimmy probably starts at the 4 game 1. Like that's kind of my personal opinion as it currently stands. If that's the right move or not, that can be debated, but I think that's the way they go just with the way the roster is.
Okay. Frankie, did you want to chime in?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like Brady was talking about the movement and that last play. That's another thing I've brought up a lot. The weak side movement needs to be a lot better. And way more consistent. A lot of these clips where the success of Jimmy at the 4 is early offense, mid transition, full transition, and with a lot of creators, it's really easy to not easy, but it's a strength if you're in early offense and transition, and they struggled to do that when Kyle wasn't around and to get into the early offense and to the quick actions. But I like to see it when he's not on the floor because he's not going to play 48 minutes a game and the postseason or anything. And you need to get the weak side movement has to be pristine. It can't be standing around. Even if that little walk down, little switch, a little down screen, that occupies the help and makes it a lot easier so that when you're playing the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks, if you're just standing still, spacing on the weak side, you are making their lives so easy. They are too long. They're too athletic. They're going to help, and they're going to contain most of your actions like that.
But I think also like it's one of the hardest things for me, in my opinion, it's one of the hardest things to do continuously during a game is to constantly move. No, it's fair. I'm not saying that like I'm giving them a pass. I'm saying it's just like one of the hardest things to do is to not get caught up in ball watching on the side.
That's that part, not get caught up in ball watching. There are some actions that are simpler and that create ripple type of movements that isn't necessarily like a Steph's type of movement, right? Like the Steph is doing all of that. What Brady's saying right there, like in that first clip, if Jimmy just goes ahead and set that flare, let Tyler kind of sink into the corner, small stuff like that, just like intuitively playing off of each other as to speak to chemistry. I think stuff like that, they have to be more intentional about, Frankie, than just letting themselves stand and whatever ISO is happening on the other side. Letting that happen.
And PJ was great at the flares on the weak side, sealing
the
hammer screens.
Stuff,
exactly. And another thing, they play like fucking 11 guys. There's no excuse to be tired.
Right.
They have the bullpen for this. They
Yeah.
totally do. This is a team full of guards. The guards are going to be the ones that are moving. It's not going to be Bam that's moving fully. He's probably going to be the creator. That's the quarterback of this. Like if Lowry's kind of, you see him fatigued, you throw Gabe in there. And they have all the way down the line.
Right.
So that's kind of why I think they can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next we're going to move over to Caleb, and we're just going to take a couple of looks at some clips with Caleb.
Yimmy.
Yeah. Like I like the way Caleb moves without the ball. He's
Yes.
always looking for space. Like I I'm not in favor of Caleb being like, ooh, the big news starting four or anything. But I will say I like the way Caleb moves on the floor without the ball. He always finds himself going towards the rim, which
Mhm.
he should. He's rangy, he's athletic. He's one of those guys like I would expect to get more rebounds or to get more offensive rebounds.
Yes. And
This is kind of what sparked my idea, I guess. My bad. But I was gonna say that this sparked my idea, I guess, of the Caleb, I guess, movement in general, because Caleb is so different from PJ, and that's why this is so interesting. Like he's totally different of a player that PJ was good. Like I'm not trying to downgrade PJ anyway, because I love PJ, the way he played and everything. But PJ can't be a mover in a movement offense like Caleb can. Like Caleb can be a tweener that can obviously not size up defensively, but offensively can move off the roll and play make. So it's kind of similar. We talk about this player a lot because we talked about them possibly going to Miami, but I think about the stuff they talk about with John Collins, and I think about when they would talk about playmaking off the roll being so important. If Caleb Martin could find the ability to play make off the roll, this makes everything so much easier offensively. Like in a lot of these clips, like seeing him be able to play make like this through the lane in this exact clip, like if you could do that off the roll and kind of make that read to the weak side, like that changes so much in my opinion.
Brady, were you thinking Caleb start with Jimmy when you say Jimmy at the 4?
No, I don't. If I had to give my starting lineup, I would say I think Tyler's at the 2 and I think Max is at the 3 at this stage. I'm gonna be honest. The reason why I've gone away from the Caleb thought is I just don't like, when you look back at the minutes, I don't like the Jimmy, Caleb, Bam minutes at all. Like I really don't. Like I like when it's Caleb and Jimmy, or not even as much Caleb and Jimmy. It's mostly Caleb and Bam when they went out with the role players. That's more of when that was the bigger thing. Like when Caleb's better inserting in for Jimmy, not playing next to Jimmy, in my opinion, because then there's a big man that's not willing to kind of stretch the floor. If there was a 5 if Yurt's out here shooting, like I said earlier, 38% from 3, then maybe you can go to it and put Caleb and Jimmy together. But it's just hard for me.
Or you let Bam shoot and let Yurt be the anchor down low, but tomatoes and tomatoes.
If he wants to, I guess go right ahead. I just think I think that's another topic, but I will say I just feel like you're not going to push your centerpiece in that direction to kind of mold around your role player. Like I feel like the bigger goal here is to push your role player to kind of mold around your centerpiece of your franchise. But if Bam could shoot, that makes everything so much easier.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know that it's necessary. Well, I personally don't. So I get what you're saying kind of with regards to like maybe fixtures and just kind of, this is what we have. Like the rest of you kind of mold around that. But to me, I would rather ask the one who I've at least seen be able to do the other things. Like, hey, I know you are like our franchise, whatever. Yeah. But
Jimmy,
we know that you have like the capabilities to do kind of this other stuff. I think it's almost kind of difficult to ask the role players to expand their shit when it's like, but I'm doing the thing. Like, I don't, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, Jimmy should be able to hit his shots. You're right. I just get annoyed because it's always Bam do it, and Jimmy's always the one getting in the way too. And Jimmy shows in the playoffs he can hit these shots. Do it in the regular season, motherfucker. Make it life easy for everybody.
Him too, yeah.
It's usually do it in the playoffs. The quote here is do it in the regular season.
Yeah.
I think that I'll add into the Bam conversation is that whenever guys begin to shoot the 3, they always start in the corner. And then once they get that confidence, it expands above the break. I just don't believe that his corner shooting moves the needle in this offense right now. Like, I just feel like if there's going to be something consistently go to, if he could hit the above the break 3, I think everybody can agree that changes everything. But if it starts and it's like a gradual kind of improvement here, and I guess long term it's great. But for the now, him shooting the corner 3, I just don't think that does enough, I guess, for the short kind of the short term.
And to jump on that, if he shoots 33% from above the break, it opens it up a little bit. But in the playoffs, they're going to live with that. They're going to dare him to go 2 of 5, 3 of 6 from there. Because the same thing happened with Brook Lopez when he was hitting that. He was spacing it, and then playoffs came. What did the Heat do? They said, "Go ahead, hit 4." You won't do that.
So then, if Jimmy was your 4, right, and we've Jimmy doesn't whatever threes we've seen Jimmy take, they're not the corner threes. Jimmy is taking your above the break more so of those types of shots. So I get the advantages, or I guess the versatility that you can use with Jimmy. I just don't want it.
They missed the Kelly DHO being able to just rip it.
Yeah.
And finally, my favorite guy, Highsmith.
Hamish.
That's my guy. Listen.
Go ahead.
He got a body. He got long arms.
Skinny legs.
Listen, all you got to be able to do is reach. This is what you want. Listen, realistically, if you're looking at the roster and you're saying we're not starting Jimmy, right? So if you're coaching and you go, I'm not starting Jimmy at the 4. We're not doing that. I got to pick one of these guys. Realistically, like who you going to go Hamish or you going to go Caleb? Like
Darius Days.
Or Darius Day. Like this is what we got. These are the oranges that have already fallen to the ground.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would hope though this season that he gets a little run because I'd like to see him in some games. I'd like to see him.
It's the defensive stuff.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. Like this is why
I want to see what he could bring on the defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
If he can grab some boards, you know. Can he hit a couple of shots? I have no idea.
With replacing PJ, I'm not worried about them because PJ had a lot of jobs. He would go. His versatility was the biggest weapon. He could guard Trae Young. He could guard James Harden. Yeah, they're not going to replace him. But
that's the thing. So
he can guard. Like I'm not worried about that because you can do a Caleb. You can put a Depot. You can put somebody in that lineup that can do that. You can put a Gabe and put 2 guards together. You could do that. My thing is when they're a bigger team, when they're killing you on the boards, when Bam is asked us to, and I'm with Brady and Shaban and Tiff. I know you said this a bunch, but play more drop, just play more base coverage especially when you're playing small. Just to have Bam have that length, not ask Gabe to be the help at the rim and expect him to take charges.
If I see Gabe and Max under the rim one more time, fighting for their lives.
The one possession I saw Gabe trying to box out Pascal Siakam, I was pissed. I'm like,
girl, Pascal knee was in Gabe's ear. That's how small Gabe was. I was
personally offended.
It was terrifying to see that. But here's the thing. Let's say we are starting Bam at the 4. Who are you going? Are you going Yurt or are you going Dedmon? And why? You got
it's got to be Yurt. It's got to be Yurt. Like it has to be. Like, and I don't think they'll get to that point, but there's no way. Like I think Omer beats out Dedmon pretty easily, I guess, for the backup big spot. But like when we're talking about starting spot, like. Dedmon's he's a rhythm player, man. Like if he gets some like momentum, he's not afraid to take that Curry land 3. And I've seen it so many times that I just like that scares me. Like it really does. Like at least Yurt is good enough to he knows when to set his feet and he knows how to do that type of stuff. We haven't seen it at the NBA level, but we've seen it in summer league. We've seen it previously. That I think there's enough trust there. So if you're picking one, I'd go Yurt. But I want to add into the Haywood Highsmith thing. I'll say I really like what he can be defensively. Like I really do. And that's just not even based off the summer league, but that kind of catapulted it, in my opinion. Just seeing the way he was able to kind of use his arms, the way he's able to just use his wingspan in that way, move his feet. I think he'd be a very, very good perimeter defender just generally. Like I think he could be a very good perimeter defender. But when you're having the conversation, I guess, of Caleb or Haywood Highsmith, I think the only question to ask is who do you think shoots a better percentage from 3? Like, I think if you have the answer to that question, I think you have who's higher in the depth chart for that position because you're going to get I'm not saying he's at Caleb's level defensively just immediately because I think Caleb's developed over time as a really good defender. and he deserves that kind of label. But if you're talking about in this offense and sitting in the corner and just hitting the spot up three, it's a 3-and-D role. That's all they're going to need, just kind of in this starting spot. When now we're not talking about kind of Strus at the 2 and limited movement. We're talking about Lowry at the 1, Tyler at the 2, Jimmy at the 3. Like, you have so many creators. Can you hit the catch and shoot 3? So I guess I'll let you guys give your opinion. Who do you think shoots better spot up threes? If you were to say right now heading into the season, would you go Caleb or would you go Highsmith?
I'm probably, and everybody's healthy. If everyone's healthy across the board, I'm probably going to go Caleb.
Really?
I'd say Caleb, but only because we've seen it more.
And that's why. Well, because that's the trust, but that's the trust factor.
I trust Haywood's form better.
I trust Hamish. I really was about to call him Hamish. Like,
feel free, borrow it.
I trust his ability to, but I know that we've just seen us use Caleb more, and I don't think that that's to say that Hamish can't. He just hasn't had the reps.
I just think Highsmith has Hamish has a more like natural form. Like we saw Caleb when he gets into his funks, is because it looks like he's tinkering with it. He's thinking, he's aiming, his feet, his shot, everything looks like it's a little bit of a mess. So I just, if we're going off that, I don't think any of us before last season had Caleb shooting 40% on threes or close to it. And I think it'll drop down a little bit and it'll balance out a little bit more, unfortunately. I hope it doesn't, but if I had to bet, I would say Highsmith for sure.
I go Highsmith too.
Yeah.
I love his build. Yeah. He has the type of build that I really get excited about.
They're both the guys on the floor that you're choosing to leave open. Like, that's the thing. That's the guy you're tagging with. Like, you're tagging off that corner on either one of those corner shooters. So if they can take advantage, it's like.
I
wonder what Caleb's above the break numbers look like.
You pull it up. And while you're pulling that up, let me just send out a little shout out. When we close out this segment tonight, we're going to take a couple of questions that Brian M. finds in the chat. So if you got any questions for any of us, all of us, or you just want to know what Brady likes to eat for breakfast, throw it out there. And if Brian finds it, he'll tee it up for you. So I'm curious, though. What do we think the bench lineup's going to look like this year?
I would say, and I don't know if I'm the only one hearing that echo, but
I hear it.
But I'll say I think it's Gabe obviously at the 1. In my just opinion that I said I think it's Jimmy at the 4 and let's say Max at the 3. I think the lineup you're heading for is Gabe, Depot, Caleb, and Yurt as your kind of 4 guys off the bench, and then you have Duncan who's kind of looking for a resurrection season, and there's plenty of offense to look for in that bench lineup. When you're hearing kind of the names I'm throwing out there, that's a death lineup of defense. Like, you're maximizing Yurt's lineup, in my opinion. Like, the fact that you're going to go 2-2-1 press if Caleb and Gabe are on the floor together. Like, there's no doubt about that you're going to be pressing. I don't think you want Oladipo pressing because I think you want to basically allow him to be more of an offensive juggernaut. You don't want him tiring him out in that way with the way he's kind of playing. So if you have Caleb and Gabe at the top of that press and you have Yurt kind of glued to the basket, not having to play drop and having to go through that, he's going to have to play drop. Like, don't get me wrong about that. He has to figure out drop in a way successfully, and that'll catapult him, I guess, in the rotation. But that's a defense right there. Like, the fact that you can roll that lineup out there, and then we know it's never just these 4 guys at the same time at all times. Like, there's going to be that extra creator in there. There's going to be that extra shooter in there. So I'm a big fan of their bench in general. I think Gabe and Depot, I believe, works very well together. Like, not only the defensive stuff, but Gabe's shown a willingness to move off ball. He's been a guy that's moved off ball for Tyler. He's moved off ball for Kyle. He's just moved off ball. And it's funny because over time, they were forcing him to be the on-ball guy. His entire life, he's been a catch-and-shoot, off-ball kind of combo guard. And then they're saying, you have to play the 1 because we need you to. And he elevated in the postseason and figured it out. Now I believe they're going back in the other direction. They're saying, go back to the off-ball role because we're going to need you in it a lot. So that's another scenario of, if that's, which I believe he will, but that's somebody that can capitalize on spot-up threes. If he's capitalizing like that, it just changes a lot for not only the bench shooter, but I think the team in general, because you were talking about kind of injuries. Gabe Vincent's going to start a lot of games this season. Like, I don't
Right.
think Kyle Lowry's going to be pushing anywhere close to 82. That Gabe's going to be starting, and I don't think from the fan base to the coaching staff to anybody here, I don't think anybody's worried about that. Like, I think there's enough trust that Gabe can kind of lead them in that starting role.
Real quick, so we were just on the point of Caleb, right? Brian, I DM'd it to you. So his instat shot chart, the right corner is his most red, like is his hottest corner. The left wing is like his next biggest blob, but the next piece of redness for him is the right corner. And is the right wing. And so not necessarily at the 45 of the right wing and not directly at the top of the key, but like the space in like at like the 60-degree angle right wing kind of Caleb is a bit more red than green in the other areas. To your point about the bench, I agree mostly with everything that Brady said. The idea of Gabe's kind of maturation and his ability, right? So yeah, you can't see the lines, but like this is Caleb's shot chart. I think that Gabe's ability to play off the ball does a lot kind of with a lot of the different lineups and however you want to kind of piece them together. Gabe and Depot, I would want Gabe to be the off-ball person there because I want you to use Vic for his rim pressure. Give him a ball screen, let him get downhill, see if he can get all the way there. If not, kick it out. This is why I found myself fluctuating back and forth between when it's the Gabe kind of Kyle minutes, who I wanted on and off ball, but given physical, just kind of ability to just move around younger, whatever, let Kyle run it, let Gabe, find his things or whatever. But I'm excited about their bench. I know people have their ideas of what the starting group looks like. And then, of course, from that is what we're left with the bench. But again, the depth of this team is going to be its strength, and it has to for them to find themselves healthy enough to be where they want to be at the end.
Yeah, for sure. And I like what Brady brought up about the 2-2-1. We saw plenty of time with Gabe and Caleb off the bench, just how much energy they provide, how much turnovers, how many easy buckets they get, just creating havoc, hit ahead, dunk, foul, layup, three, whatever. And we saw Depot fit right into that too. He just create a lot of havoc there. And I think they'll get more chemistry as time goes. And it's a good way to like kind of create some easy points and relief points. So you're not having to score in the half court because this team struggles to score in the half court. Get out in transition, create early possessions, create early opportunities. And you have Yurt in the back line. He's a big body, he can rebound, and he's a really good passer. I think that's one of the, everyone talks about his rebounding, but he's a great reads, a solid outlet passer. He's unselfish. He makes the hit ahead pass, and that helps open everything up. We saw Gabe really make a leap on the hit ahead passes because Kyle he really looked at Kyle and like, all right, I'm gonna look up everything you do. That hit ahead pass, that early pass. We saw that pass to Jimmy in that first play that it was Kyle hits head. That's a real staple of Spo's offense. That early hit to that wing initiate to trigger the offense early. And I think that's a great opportunity to get the athletes on the team. There's not a lot of athletes on this team, but when you have most of your athletes are coming off the bench, especially on the wings and the guard spots, get those going. I want to see those lineups play with Bam more. Play with Tyler and Bam with some of those guys who can hide Tyler a little bit on defense, even though he needs to nut up and do some of that himself this year. But it takes kind of some of the pressure off him, and it kind of reminds me of the Warriors. One of their key lineups early on was Clay with Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, Draymond, and always like Maurice Spates or somebody else. So Clay goes and scores, and everyone else does everything else. So create havoc, push the pace, get matchups you like. And I think with Caleb's one of those guys who He can guard big and can guard small. You don't want him to guard big too much, too often, but he's athletic enough, and when he's healthy, he can really do a damn good job on defense.
I agree. I think though, like as we start winding this down, the one thing I think we should address, because the Heat are going to be reliant on Victor Oladipo this season. Like there's no way they're not. Realistically, where do you guys see him as he comes back having a full off season? Like he has a full off season this time around. He's integrated from the beginning preseason. So he's there, he's on the floor, he's working. What do you guys expect?
If he's not starting, I have him as your six man. I think depending on like the Gabe Kyle thing, whichever one of them goes out first, I have Vic as your 6th or 7th guy. And it's to what you said, right? Like he'll be fully integrated. And I don't know who reported it or where I heard the bite from, but like it's not a secret anymore. And they are like, we are going to be using you more. It's been stated, it's been put out there, like it's a known thing. And so if he's not starting, then, and they know that like he wants a role, like they know that he wants to be able to help lift more and to help carry more. So if he isn't starting, then I think it's definitely your 6-7 person. And depending on what's happening toward the end of the games, I think he's closing for you too. Given foul situations, we need defense. If we need some rim pressure and Kyle's not able to shake loose for whatever reason, like I think there is sizable and significant space for him to be.
Yeah, I'll say that. I think the biggest thing is, and you hit on it, just knowing his role, because there was just too many points last season, and this is not on him. I think it's just the way things go at this point. But he didn't know like the offense that they ran all season. Like, he was just kind of being thrown into the fire, and they had to do that. They did not run a Jimmy, Hero, Depot lineup, obviously, all season. And then all of a sudden, they just went crazy with that lineup all playoffs, and they had to tinker with it, and they figured it out on the fly at times, but they still weren't able to master it. I think that's why that's going to be a very important lineup this season. Just this quick sidetrack. I think Depot being incorporated there and them figuring out that trio specifically. Like, I know I'm not including Bam in there, but I think Bam can fit with most people. I think he doesn't dominate the ball, even though we want him to. Bam's not going to sit there and call for the ball. Jimmy, Tyler, and Depot are all going to need the ball in their hands. And if they can figure that out with, I think movement's kind of the key there. Once again, like that's the one way to kind of get by this. But if they can figure that out, that's huge. But overall, with his role, like rim pressure is the biggest thing for me. If he's able to hit the catch and shoot three at a high clip, that catapults us even higher. I think we trust what he can do defensively. But his role, I think it's going to be exactly what Tyler was in last season. Like, I think it's that simple. Like, I think they're giving him the total green light. I think they're going to say, just go do what you do, get to your spots on the floor that you know that you're going to get to. You know you can get to the rim. Every time I see an off-season clip of him, he's doing a spin move in the mid-range. So hopefully we could see something along those lines there. But if he can incorporate that type of stuff, like a midi pull-up that Tyler had last season, and kind of I don't think you're going to see the same level of pull-up threes as you saw from Tyler, but that balance is still – Tyler wasn't doing what he can do at the rim. So there's always that balance in general. But that's going to be his role. His usage is going to be through the roof this season. So he's going to have the opportunity. This is it's funny because we keep talking about like secret weapon and him being kind of the acquisition, even though he's been here for 3 seasons, but it hasn't added up to that. Like this is true test. Like this is the true moment to see what he can do on this team. They're giving him like I said, the total green light. So his role will be interesting. And when guys go out, guys are going to go down. His usage is only going to increase on this team. Like that's where it comes down to. He's going to only skyrocket from here offensively. I just wonder are they going to put him on other teams' best offensive player like right out the gate? Because I believe so. Because my recency bias is him just basically clamping up Jaylen Brown in that one. What was it, game 3? Like you can't teach that, and you can't take that for granted. Like you have to utilize that. So I think we see that right out the gate. I think that's a useful thing in the playoffs as well. But we always talk about his offense, but I just feel like the defensive stuff is just it's still there. Like even when he came in his first game this past season, like the first game, the topic after the game was his defense didn't go anywhere. Like, he hasn't played basketball this long, and his defense is this legit. He had a whole offseason to work on basketball. He also had a whole offseason to work on agility, not just revamping his injury. Like, he worked on actual agility. So I'm really interested in the defensive stuff in general.
Victor Oladipo has played 12 games for the Miami Heat in the regular season. He played 15 playoff games for them last year.
But imagine where, Frankie, but think about it this way. Imagine where we would have been without him in the playoffs.
Oh,
disastrous. What? I mean, we all know I'm a huge Vic fan. I liked a lot of what I saw, and I know a lot of what the struggles came from coming back from the injury. You know, that when you're coming back from that injury, he's not as explosive as he used to be. So that's where the adjustment has to come. And, you know, I'm glad he had a healthy offseason. And he worked out against some really good players. A lot of workouts against Kyrie, KD. He worked out against athletic guys like Russ. Like, that's great for him. Like, he needs that. He needs those reps, and getting those reps in the offseason as he's building himself back up is going to go a long way. You know, Brady touched on the defense and his strength, his length, his anticipation. He can stay low to the ground. He's not going to get out muscled by a lot of guys, and he can help on switches. He takes charges. He's unselfish. He's great. He's great defensively. No, I don't think anybody's worried about him defensively, but he's definitely a weapon defensively. Offensively, the struggles came the rim pressure was great. The touch around the rim, I know a lot of that is adjusting to the explosiveness, where he's going from easily clearing it and dunking and putting it on a highlight film to, you know, barely getting to the rim. That's a big adjustment. You're jumping and you're like, whoa, I'm not getting there. It's like I used to. So he's just got to learn his body now. He's got to learn the new angles that he's going to get to. Like, his max vert isn't going to be the same as it used to be. Maybe in a year. That's going to take time to heal.
But but the funniest thing is, if you go back and watch those playoff games, that spurt might not be as fast as it was, but it's still faster than half of. It's still faster than a lot of people we got sitting next to him.
Yeah, he's still got a quick first step, and that's something you can't teach. And it's not as quick as it used to be, but it's still very useful.
Because his first step, there's no wasted movement.
Yep.
If you notice that, there is no wasted movement in his first step.
It's a long
his
stride
first
too.
Step,
yeah,
that's it.
And it's low.
But it's weird, Brady. He has the long stride, but he also has this short, choppy strides, and I think that goes with like some of what Tiff's saying, like the no wasted movement. He doesn't need like 4 or 5 combo moves. He's getting maybe an in and out cross and pop, and I'm there. And Frankie, I love what you said about like his finishing, and I think that comes to, you know, like what you said, learning whether or not he can bounce that high anymore. But I felt like I was more impressed to see that his ability to get there wasn't really diminished. It's just, now I need to figure out how I finish once I get here.
And it took Wade a season too. Remember Wade coming off as he got older? He had seasons where he went downhill finishing wise, because he was trying to dunk and he's missing layups, and you never saw Dwayne miss layups, and he's missing open ones. And that's just an adjustment, learning your body as your athleticism declines and the injuries pile up and stuff. But I still think Vic, I'm hoping it's this season, obviously, but I still think he's so young. He's only 30. I still think he's not completely gone. He won't be what he was in Indy or in college, but I still think there's a level, like he's probably like a B rating. I think he can get to like a B plus on the vertical again. And I expect big things from him. He's going to be too big of a factor for this team.
Well, I wonder if he can get to the line at the same level he did in Indy, like at least at the same type of, because you're talking about the finishing and getting there. Like I don't think there's any doubt any of us believe he's not going to get to the rim. It's more what he's going to do at the rim.
Right.
But the thing is he going to be willing now that he's past the injury stuff for this time? I think he's going to be more willing to embrace contact in general. Right. So if he can get to the line like that, that's another outlet of offense. Like they have a lot of free throw merchants now that they can get to, like potentially.
And speaking of that, if you've got Tyler out there, especially starting, I need to see him getting to the line.
Yes.
I'm not saying go head first into the contact, but I need What does he average per game? Like I don't even know. What does he average? 3?
Real
Maybe.
quick to touch on what Brady was saying about Vic with his free throw rate.
Mhm.
He got for regular season he was about average his career average of 26%. For playoffs that went up to 39%. And that's something, if he can get that over an extended period of time in the regular season, that's a huge boost for them. I'm looking up Tyler now.
Okay.
Me too. So I don't know what his attempts are. Right now I have him though making 2.7 free throws. That's his average. Again, not sure what the attempts
You
for.
need a few more of those.
Yeah.
If you're on the
Yeah.
floor, you need a few more of those.
The one thing is just finding the bridge. I keep saying, like, between regular season and the playoffs, and the fact that his drives per game and attempts per game or off those drives just basically sliced in half from regular season to playoffs is the biggest issue, I think, when talking about his playoff performance. Like, if you have to find a way to, if they're going to close you off, because the playoffs are going to be more half court offense and defense. They're going to know your tendencies in general, so they know you want to get to your floater right before the box, so they're going to close off there. But you have to have a counter ready. Like, that's the preparation part of this. Like, that's the part that I believe he kind of has to have been preparing for this entire offseason, is the next level around the rim. Is it we know he has the pull farther out. We know he has the floater. Now it's about right under the rim. Like, what's your next play here? Like, are you going to be willing to take this contact, get to the line, be able to finish with the added strength you're adding? That's the difference, because he's been great in the regular season with the wild finishes and scoops, and they're all fun for top tens. But like, we this is never. It's not a translating factor to playoffs, because that stuff just doesn't happen, because you're not going to get the same calls, first of all, in general, even if you're doing that type of stuff. Like, you'll get the calls if you're embracing contact. When you're doing that stuff, you're not. But if they close it off, you're not making those type of shots. So if he could do that, embrace contact,
that's why I wanted to see him like get more comfortable. So I want him to have those counters, but that's why I kind of also wanted to see him embrace a little bit more of off-ball stuff. Like, I don't know, and as maybe as like the first drive and kick option and attacking kind of already bent defenses. I do want him to have the counters and stuff, but like, okay, haven't seen that. So get more comfortable kind of off ball and integrate better with like a Vic or a Gabe or whatever as kind of your primary people on ball. That's just me though.
Yeah, like we just talked about Vic increasing his free throw rate for the playoffs. Tyler's went down. It went from a career high 19.5% in the regular season to a career low 14.9% in the playoffs. And like, I know he was injured and stuff, but it's about getting that craftiness. And like, one thing that Tyler really needs, like, it's about what Brady said, getting something to the rim, but that's also going to help the offense go out, because then help will come. If he's showing he can finish at the rim and not have to shoot over somebody, help is going to come. Right now he's got he's beating his man, and the defense lets his man recover. They don't send help. They don't force from the weak side. He's not pulling the defense to him enough to the point where it's going to bend the defense. He's got the skip pass. He can make those passes. He improved a lot as a pass reader, but him forcing the help, getting to the rim, finishing through contact will open up so much for the offense, because it's not just he's going to score, he's shooting a floater, and you live with it, 50% shot. He's getting to the rim and he's getting 3 points because he's finishing. That's going to make a world of difference for the whole team.
When we talk about it like this, like on paper, Tyler and Depot are like the biggest like combo over each other in general. Like, every weakness and strength we've talked about like over the last 10 minutes has been the weakness of the other. Like, we're talking about finishing around the rim and defense.
I want them to get it better together. Let Vic initiate and then let Tyler do the other part. Sorry.
If that meshing could come along, like the fact that Tyler's biggest strength is the pull-up shooting in general on the outside, and that's kind of Depot's one question mark, I guess, offensively. And then you have the defensive stuff and the rim pressure. Like, they'd form a pretty elite player if they came together. Let me just say that, because they just do. Like, they just complement each other, I guess, on paper. But like we keep saying, the question will become, how do they integrate together? And I think Spo's going to force it. I really believe that. Like, even if they don't, like, they're going to make it work. Like, they're not just going to say, oh, it doesn't work, we have to kind of let each one run their lineups. No, like, this has to work with if you're rolling with this roster.
Choice. Exactly. This is the roster. Like, you got no choice. You got to figure out a way to work it together. So we're gonna wrap it up here, but I'm told we do have 5 questions.
Boom.
So Brian M, whenever you're ready, take it
Well,
away.
well, 6 now.
Oh,
Nice.
6 pack of questions.
So, first one is, what does Duncan's role look like if he's still on the roster?
We ain't talked about Duncan all episode, and I thought about that like 5 minutes ago.
well, I think Brady did kind of touch on it that there's that possibility for what did you say that front court of Yurt and Duncan?
I just feel like there's an opening when looking at the bench unit. Like just overall, like there's if they let's just say that it ends up being the Jimmy at the 4 starting lineup, the fact that you have Gabe, Depot, and Caleb off the bench, like a shooter is needed. like the
Yes.
fact
Yeah.
that and they have a shooter on this roster, and as much as we could talk about Duncan in general, this is like kind of restarting. Like this isn't like a continuation thing. Like he is starting from scratch in this training
Mhm.
camp. Like there's no expectations on him. He's heading in here to basically say, I'm going to earn my role like I have every other season when I've kind of capitalized on my role. Now I'm chasing from behind. But he's been through this. Like, shooters don't forget how to shoot. Like, that's just not what happens. Like, he could still shoot the basketball at a high level. He could go into camp and surprise everybody at a completely other level and beat out Max, let's say, potentially. Like, that's not out of the running because that's what shooters do. So, what his role looks like, we've seen continue to say they go to 9-man rotation, so I don't see them going a lot into 10-man, but I think they kind of have to with wanting to preserve certain guys on this roster. So if he can go into 10-man rotations, Duncan's going to have a set maybe 12 minutes on this roster, maybe like that. I can see that happening, like 10 to 12 minutes a game for at least the start of the season until they shrink it into the 9, and obviously the averages will bring that down. But at least to start the season, like I don't think it's out of question.
Brady, don't slander sexy white chocolate on this show.
I was waiting for it,
Oh, you're
Brady.
right,
I
you're right.
figured that was going to be strike one.
You're right.
That is strike one.
That was the first name that popped into my head.
I
Scaring him, Tiff. You're scaring him.
I like Brady's point, and especially with like a Vic Gabe, I want Duncan to return the form. I hope there's not this idea that
If he's here,
they
you
need him
need
to
him.
return to some point of a form, right? I'm excited for him, and I like Brady how you just said it. It does feel like very much so like a restart. That one season where you were like shooting through the roof, cool, like that was great. Last season, not so much. No expectations on him per se coming in, right? Didn't see much time in the playoffs. So like, how do you kind of recenter yourself and make yourself? It was too easy, I guess it felt for Spo to not be able to go to him when his shooting could have helped and opened some stuff up. He has to get back to a position of no, we need you on the floor to do those things.
right?
I am excited to see what he kind of reinvents himself or how he does.
Yeah, he's gonna play. He's gonna have opportunities if
Right.
he's here. We saw Kyle Guy get plenty of minutes. You know, if Kyle Guy got minutes, Duncan's gonna get some minutes. So it's on him. I like what Bond brought up about the defense and earning his role. Like he's the only one stopping himself because
Right.
I mean sometimes the refs are giving him some ticky tack calls, but he can be better. He can put himself in better position, be a smarter defender. He plays too small. I always forget. I know everyone probably always forgets as well. He's 6'7", and he plays a lot smaller than that.
Yeah.
And if he can help himself doing other things when he's not hitting shots, if he's rebounding, if he's cutting to the basket, getting to the rim, stuff like that, defending, taking charges, he can make himself more valuable. But right now he lets his shooting dictate how the rest of his game goes too much.
Yep.
And we saw how Max is the opposite of that. If Max can go 1 for 10 and still make a big play on the other end, and that's the difference between them two.
I think though it is. It all goes back to Duncan being able to play from a position of strength. If the shots are working, it seems like everything is working.
Yeah.
And he's tall, and I forget he's got long arms. He's rangy, you need that. If you're on the team, you need it. Like that's just the way I look at it. Like they're gonna need him to do something. And I think mentally maybe this offseason was probably good for him.
Yeah.
Get away from everybody, get away from the team, get yourself back to whatever it is you like to do. Maybe get away from basketball. I think sometimes you just need that break because, like you said, it was too easy for Spo to go, let me look past him and put somebody else in. You know?
That's the
But-
worst feeling when the coach looks at you and like,
Yeah.
You got locked eyes, and it's
Right.
like, please put.
Right. Not you. They put
Right.
you catch the
You got
coach
to
side.
stand up and then it's always disrespectful. Like, I'm not looking at you. I'm not talking to you. The next one.
I'm looking past you.
Right. But the reality is we're talking about Duncan, we're talking about Max, we're talking about Tyler, all these guys. And that's why I always, and Shy, I do this. All these guys are the transformers.
Oh yeah.
If they don't stack and create one giant ass Optimus Prime, it's not going to
It
work.
won't work. Mm-mm.
You need all these guys to do what they do best.
Yep.
And
It's not
Duncan
enough
is
people that can do everything, and so
Exactly.
everybody has to do the
Yep.
one thing and like fill their hole and
Yep.
help fill the hole next to them.
that's it. All right, Brian, moving right along.
Yep. Next question is, why does Brady look so nervous? He looks like he clicked on the wrong chat room.
Wait, since we're on that topic, I saw somebody say something else where they said, I look like I pour my milk then before my cereal. I don't. So I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions as well. Do you pour your milk or
Screaming.
cereal first?
Well, I went ahead.
Hilarious.
It's definitely cereal.
Ah, there you go.
There you go. There you go, Brady.
Now I'm imagining you like
Right.
on the milk first and like trying to
Brady in
analyze
the kitchen, like
the splash angle of the cereal. How do we pour it without getting it to splash?
I'm
Wow.
seeing Brady
Does
pour
Brady
his milk
go-
and be like,
because
damn, I got
Brady
no
goes
cereal.
a little milk, a little cereal, a little milk, a little
Yeah, do it
cereal.
at the same time. I'll do either one first.
Like a bartender.
So we kind of went over this one earlier. Was how many minutes should Depot play in the regular season? I don't know if you guys
As
want to put
many
a
as
minute.
Spo wants. Like, listen, he's healthy. Let that man play.
Let him play.
Let him play.
Him and Gabe are gonna take a lot of Kyle's minutes in the regular season, and they should rest them up.
And while you're on that topic, I would love to see some Vic at the 1 and couple of the Leches as the 2-3.
Mm.
That's really what I want, but I don't want to touch on, other stuff. But I want to see a chunk of that.
I don't mind that because I think either if you have Caleb or Jimmy at the 4 next to Bam, there's enough defense there to cover up. Like it doesn't even
Right.
matter about sizing up in general. There's enough to go around, and I think if you're in drop, Depot is perfectly fine of guarding your best player and fighting over or under the screen. Like there's enough trust here. And not to get off track, but that's also why I trust this team's drop coverage. Like they have actually guard defenders now. Like you're looking around,
Right.
Caleb can guard guards. You have Depot, you have Gabe, you have all these guys. Kyle on, supposed to, but I don't know if they trust him fully at this stage. But they have enough guard defenders now to fight over and under screens and make that decision. And Bam can cover up enough in general, but that's why I think, to your point, those lineups can work. Because if they're in that type of drop, you have these other guys that are hedging over, and then a lot of these guys that were just like Max, he's a good team defender. Tyler's even a good team defender. Like they're
Duncan's a
good.
good team
Duncan's
defender.
a
Yes,
good
Duncan's
team
a
defender.
good team defender. So it's,
Individual defender.
Not playing pity pat.
Right.
He is. If you actually watch
Right.
him,
Yes.
he really is.
it's just when they begin to get picked on, it becomes problematic when they're on the
Right.
ball. But that's another reason why I think, once again, drop coverage can be. Because if they get taken out of the play on the ball, Bam's good enough to contain two. He is. Like, that's just how good he is at this stage. And I don't think it has to be one-on-one switching all the time to show his dominance. Like, I think there's a part of this where people think that, like, his defensive player of the year stuff is, like, out the window because he's in drop and he can't like, be, like, showcase his perimeter defending, like, in general. But first of all, they're going to switch at times. Like, they're never going to fully get away from that. They're going to switch. And then my other point is that like Rudy Gobert is the guy that steals it every year, and the guy plays drop all day under the rim. So he's not going to be a guy like Rudy Gobert, though, to get those numbers of blocks and everything. He's just going to be a guy that impacts and throws people out, and then all of a sudden they kind of deter him in a similar way that Rudy, that they don't want to go at the rim because he's there. And I know I just flipped I think a Depot question into this, but but it ties in, I guess.
Yeah, we already did that. Depot's going to play as many minutes as he wants. There's not going to be a minutes restriction. Yeah. He's playing.
Got it.
So before I ask the actual question, someone was mentioning this a bunch in chat, so I gotta ask you guys: do you think Duncan looks taller when he drives to the basket?
Kind of.
He looks lanky.
Yes. He looks like, yes, I think so. But that's because it feels more unnatural for him.
It looks a little slow.
Slow and upright.
Right. But he gets there.
Yeah, exactly. He gets there.
He gets there and he gets the job done when he does it. Listen, it's not going to always look good.
I just want to see Duncan. I don't want to see the 13 seconds spamming the DHOs. I want to see.
Yeah, we don't know.
6 seconds. It doesn't work. Flip it. Flip the ball. Let's next action. Counters.
I want him to be in. I want him to be in the Max role. Like we originally said about Max being in Duncan's role, and that was like far from the truth. Like he is not in Duncan's role at all. But if Duncan could be in Max's role of slip screens, repositioning, straight just catch and shoot, and not being worried about it, like that's the stuff that's kind of tends to him, and that kind of generates confidence and rhythm and all of that stuff. Where he's not constantly sprinting and running a marathon constantly, like. It's also funny to me, which could tend into shooting ways of both of them, but the way, if you ever look at the way each of them run a handoff, is like the complete opposite of each other. Max catches it and he takes like 1 or 2 dribbles to spread away from that defender chasing. Duncan's at the shoulder of the screener. Like he is at Bam's shoulder and he's shooting because he wants it to be like there's benefits to both. Like you can make the case for both, and not to discourage Duncan because he did it so well at a very high level for years, but there's a difference here when they start to figure you out. Maybe there's a way where Duncan kind of, if he uses the handoff, it's in different ways. It's not the same exact kind of, I guess, process over and over.
Okay.
So do you think Jovic will play a role this season? And if so, how much of a role?
Kyle Guy. That's all I'm gonna say. Kyle played last season.
It's true.
Jovic will play this season at some point. Now it's up to him. I think he needs to gain some weight, obviously, and improve his quickness, laterally especially, because he's gonna be asked to play the 4 a lot, 3-4, probably guard some bigger guys. So that's where the strength is. I don't think I'm a big Jovic fan. I think the offense is where he's going to help the most when he gets comfortable. But I think this season he's going to play for the Sioux Falls Skyforce a very lot of minutes there, and I think he'll do good. I don't expect him to contribute this year. He's going to be a project player. He'll play some. He'll have an opportunity, and we haven't seen him since like game 2 of Summer League, so we don't know what he's been doing. If they didn't let him play for his country. For FIBA, which I think would have been a great opportunity for him, but maybe the injury was worse than we originally heard. But I think the skill set and the length and the size can definitely contribute, especially since they don't have that at the wing spot right now. And you know he's gonna show flashes, but you got to be patient with him, and because there's a reason he was a late first round pick. He wasn't a highly touted international prospect. There wasn't no talk. There was like early talk of him going lottery, but I love the potential. He hasn't played basketball that long. He's and even then he's still stacked up pretty well against internationally against guys that have been playing all their lives and were top 10 picks for their respective teams. So my answer is not this year, maybe, but in the future, I definitely think he's a player.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think he plays a role this season. But like, let's just hypothetically say like Caleb twists an ankle is out 2 weeks. Like it's all hands on deck at that point. Like they don't just have the next guy to slot in. It's Jovic, Highsmith, and Darius Days. Like, it's just all hands on deck. Whoever gets the opportunity gets it, and you're going to run with it. My question is, in those spot minutes, what will his role be? Because it's weird. He's just a totally different prospect when you just look at a guy that is out there running pick and rolls, and then he's going to be put in the NBA, and he's not going to run a pick and roll. He's going to be the roller in those pick and rolls, which is something he hasn't done in those leagues. Like, it's just totally different. Like, and that's why I think your point about Sioux Falls is like, they're going to just give him reps as a roller, as all that type of role. They're going to try to mold him in that way, because it's a lot on him just as a spot up shooter at that point. If he's not that, because even if he is a roller, like, I just don't. You mentioned the size thing. Is he big enough to kind of be a threat off the roll? Like, I don't know. Like, can he have like a good push shot and have good touch around the rim or a good pull up? Like, I believe so. Like, that could be a plus, but I don't see him being like a dominant finisher off the roll. Like, that's not going to be what he is. So what does he play when he gets in? That'll be the question. And my other question is, we talk about a lot of these guys that aren't good defenders but are good team defenders. My question is if he could become a good team defender, because there's obviously limited film on him in general, but like what we've seen is that there wasn't a lot of emphasis on the defensive end, just team-wise in general. And that's what kind of threw me for a loop with the pick. Like, we hear Pat Riley talking in his press conference about this guy needs to defend, this guy needs to defend, this guy needs to defend. And then they go into the draft a week later and they draft a guy that can't defend. So that's what threw me off, but I guess they believe in his upside offensively. But if he can become like those other guys and become good enough defensively, kind of as team-wise spots, which will come over time, then they'll believe in him, I guess, in those spot minutes. But the role in general is not like previous draft picks or prospects. Like, this is a guy that's just, he's literally going to be thrown into the fire, and they're just going to see what happens.
Yeah.
They got tired of Danilo ducking him. That's why they're like, all right, this guy looks a little bit like him. Let's get the closest thing we can.
So I don't know that they do it this way, but because of kind of how unique he is, I almost don't want them to force him into the position of the roller. Like, if he's spending time with Sioux Falls, let him see what he can do, I guess, against G League level competition as not necessarily your primary ball handler, but let him get some on-ball reps. If he's able to, so maybe you don't force him to be a roller, but if you're able to figure out how to help him maximize or make effective what it is that he kind of already naturally does as one of the ball handlers, I think that opens up like an incredible new dimension. And there's the idea that, so he's lengthy, right? So we talk about you want length, you need size, and traditionally that comes in your front court. But if you can have someone who is still lengthy, but like also playing kind of an unorthodox position on the team, I think that just kind of opens up a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily think about, or that doesn't more readily come to mind. I don't know what his role is on this team this season. I am very much with it's all hands on deck though, because health and all of that is going to dictate just lineups, period. And should he get in when he does, I almost not want them to give him, too much of a green light, but like maybe some yellow lights, like just kind of let him
proceed with caution.
He kind of gets,
Tuesday night, back to back against the Kings. You gotta
listen, like
shoot the ball.
for that. And Frankie, that's what I was about to say. You said a lot, especially in the group chat, that like the team this season has to, and fans too, have to find some intestinal fortitude to withstand some losses that maybe we wouldn't have been okay with taking in years prior. Maybe we shouldn't be shooting for the 1 seed. Maybe we should just be letting Tyler get his offensive reps, letting Bam get his reps, let Gabe and Max kind of flesh out more of their game, and let a guy like a Jovic just see kind of what they can give him or what he can give them in the more traditional kind of 3-4 rolly position, but also like let him see what he can do as a 2-3 wing-ish type of guy.
Let him see. We need to see what he can do, period.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
You drafted him for a reason, and clearly it wasn't for his stellar defense. Let's just be honest,
And
right?
so I know
So that mean that at some level on the floor he can get buckets.
yeah.
Mhm.
So this year he's not your starting four.
Nah.
But
Next year.
well, but what I'm saying is, we all know injuries occur. You're going to need people stepping up. He might have to run out there as you two. Like, we have no idea how things are going to shape out. And if he can shoot, let him shoot.
I love to see him just
What's
randomly in there at the three.
if you gave him 7 minutes on a Tuesday night, hey, put up 10 shots. I don't care. I need to see what you can do.
And with the length, I was mostly talking about the release point. Like I don't think he's gonna. They don't have a pick and pop option. They don't have the DHO pull out and shoot it when they sag and they try to drop on that. They haven't had that for 2 years since Kelly we got traded. So I think that's where they'll try to mold him. I would still like to see him get reps on the ball, like you guys said. He's got that nice little mid-range turnaround in the post. Run some isolation splits for him. Let the weak side action go and let him go make a decision. Let him try to go one-on-one and beat his man. Let's see what he can do. He'll get those reps in Sioux Falls as he gets stronger, as he develops. But I want to see him get those reps because Summer League was utterly disappointing how they utilized them.
Very underwhelming.
Well, and also like I just want to say, because we are saying like he wasn't, whatever in Summer League. We also have to kind of go back and also consider the fact that like he wasn't really playing with like true point guards.
Right.
So he
Not
wasn't
close.
exactly. So he wasn't getting the ball in good positions. He didn't have anybody kind of directing him as to where to be to get the ball.
But that's
And
why I
he's
felt
young.
like there should have been more willingness to put the ball in his hands. Like, you don't have a true point guard on this
Right.
Summer League roster.
And
So like we're
he's
talking
been
about
playing the ball handler. Like let
Right.
him do.
that's his primary bread and butter in general. So like we're talking about him going into Sioux Falls and potentially kind of developing that. Like that was my question all Summer League. Like if that's what we're gonna do, like I'm totally for it. But like, why are we not trying this out in Summer League? Like why are we looking at these guys that are none of them are even on the roster now are getting these on ball reps? Like let's see what this guy that ran pick and rolls his entire life can do. Like that's my point. Like we want to force him into this roller kind of role, but that's not him. I don't think it will be him for some time unless he changes the entire game. So, and it's a weird fit in general. Like if we're talking about this roster, we keep talking about all the creators and all the guards. Like then you have a big man that you're throwing into the mix that's also a creator and a pick and roll ball. And like if they have a theme or just kind of anything in general of what this team is, like that's what it is. So like why not embrace it?
Yeah.
4-out motion offense. We've seen it work for the 30 and 11 team when they have 4 ball handlers and everybody was a threat. Spoke can do this. Spoke can do this.
Give me Jovic Duncan splits. Just let them screen and pop and run and F people up off each other.
We got a French vanilla as the fourth leche.
Cafe leche.
Vanilla bean
Brian,
bowl.
just go.
I was
Just
gonna
go.
say
Ignore Fergie.
before we get to the final question, I just wanted to
Yes.
thank Eric the Great for the resub, saying that he missed us. I've seen a lot of love in the chat as well, saying thanking us that we're back and saying, hey, NBA season's right around the corner. It's making them feel great to see us. Alf also gave out some subs and resubscribed, but he hasn't been here to bang on the table for Duncan at the 4 in a while. So
God.
That was me.
So for the final question, everybody, we got. I should have talked while all this was happening. Oh, what would your closing lineup look like with this current roster?
I need a scenario. Do we need defense?
Yeah, I feel like it would change based on the. I think it would change based on the opponent.
It's gonna
All
change.
right, Brian, pick a team.
Let's say against the Bucks.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's the team that still scares me the most in the East. Go
ahead. You go first, Frankie.
I go. The obvious 4: Jimmy, Kyle, Tyler, Bam. And I'll probably go Max. Space them out. I don't think they match up well with them. But our hope, if Brook is in the game, our hope is force Brook off the floor with enough shooting and spacers.
I know, Frankie, your obvious ain't my obvious.
Your obvious ain't my obvious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Go
fine.
ahead, Dirty. Yeah.
I think it's an obvious three. Like, to his point, like, I think it's more of an obvious three that would make sense. But I think the other two spots are kind of for the taking.
Right.
My caveat is I wouldn't close with Tyler most of the time, but I think Spo's obviously going to do it. That's what my obvious.
See, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. And if it's the Bucks,
I hope not.
Brady, you go ahead. If you were about to give yours, go ahead.
It's weird. It is a lot of scenarios because it depends on how many people are playing. Like, it's so much. Because if we're looking on paper, like, you're just gonna throw the best five guys out there. But let's just say the Bucks. Like, I think you have to utilize Oladipo in this type of scenario. I think
that's one.
They need the rim pressure there. I think you need to move around like a Giannis on the weak side. I think about you don't want Jimmy having the late in the games have to go through this type of just kind of defensive matchups. You want him guarding, let's just say, a Middleton or a Drew, whichever one you want to feel comfortable with. I think you have – the question for me is, what does Kyle Lowry look like? Like, that's my one piece of this. Like, if on paper, I think you'd want to say go with Tyler, Depot, Jimmy, and Bam. Put your four creators, comfortable players out on the floor. But the question becomes, I don't think you want to put – as much as I want to say put a shooter out there, then there's just too much like willingness to pick on. Like, you could just pick your poison once again. So I would probably say Kyle, Tyler, Depot, Jimmy, Bam. That would probably be at this moment without context. That would probably have to be the way I go, because I feel like the creation I think is good enough to kind of hold up on the shooting, and I think there's enough trust there for Tyler and Kyle to be that. But the issue for me with that lineup isn't anything like that. It's the size. The size is the issue. But I just don't know where else you go. Like there's nowhere else that we're gonna say like, okay, Dedmon, Yurt, and Bam could play the three. Like, I think that's kind of, you just have to just bet on your offense. That's kind of where I feel.
I got.
Go ahead, Shy.
Go
ahead. I'll go last.
So you hit on kind of some of where my tension is. So I don't know that I outright give it to Tyler. And I think a lot of it does depend on kind of what Kyle looks like. Quiet as kept, or it wants to be talked about or not. I think so. We're going the Bucks. I'm going to say Kyle because I want to give him that respect, just kind of coming into things. I'm not mad at Kyle, Vic, Max, Jimmy, Bam.
That's my closer.
Because Max is giving you shooting, and Max is giving you size, and Max is giving you defense. And then couple that with your creators or like your downhill people in a Vic and whatever kind of Kyle is giving you. And not that they're going to give Tyler the start or whatever. If he earns it, fine. But I don't see Spo being hesitant or being unwilling to, like, all right, motherfucker, you started, love that, cool. I need, maybe something different in my clothes. So for that scenario, I'd say, just off paper, haven't seen anything yet. I like Kyle, Vic, Max, Jimmy, Bam.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. Because I think you need, and I hate going to this too, because it's like, what does Kyle look like, especially as we get into the season? Is his body gonna hold up? Is he gonna be on, off? Like, I have no idea. But I will say that I have no problem also swapping him out and putting Gabe in there. Like, I have no issues with that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, I think,
it's riding the hot hand, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's whoever's looking good. But I think that you really, that the hot hand is also fool's gold, because that can sometimes only apply to shooting. but you're gonna have to create stops. Like that's the biggest thing. This is not hockey, so we're not subbing 5 in, 5 out, 5 in, 5 out. Like we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So at some point, the way that we said we would want them to merge as players, they're gonna all have to become succinct in defense. Like this is you're not gonna be able to hide everyone all the time. Like
Right.
at some point, you're gonna have to man up and be able to play your guy one on one.
And I
So
think
I think
if the plan is to start Tyler, like everything's been hinting at, like you going to
you
more
need a
drop.
defensive four.
Yeah, going to more of a drop so Bam can help out a little bit more and not be switched out and be on the weak side and be stuck there. And getting the right personnel for the four right there is huge.
Yeah.
I don't know if this comes at the end of the game, at the somewhere in the middle, but the idea of I kind of like the idea of some Vic at the one, Tyler, Max, Jimmy, Bam. Like I really I want to see especially if he's more incorporated, if it's just it's known that we're putting more of a load on you, Vic. Let him handle it then and give him the guards around him that can
Right.
also help move some stuff.
Right. But you see
That
that
lineup data
lineup.
was really good in the playoffs, by the way. Like
Right.
the offensive rating, defensive rating was very
For
good.
who?
For the Depot, Tyler, Max,
Yeah.
Jimmy,
Oh,
Bam
yeah.
5.
Yeah. Remember
Love
we
it.
talked about that shot.
Yep.
Well,
I
the
wanna
thing
see
about it is that I like for Tyler is that it takes pressure off of him on defense.
Yep.
So I feel like he doesn't feel as overwhelmed on defense if he's with those guys. And you could be hesitant to make a mistake. Whereas you have people who can cover you on defense on the defensive end if you miss a guy, if you lose your guy or whatever happens. I feel like that's a lineup where he's not a liability on defense.
Mhm. And
But
I think it takes some of the play initiation pressure off of him too. Like
oh yeah.
let Vic
or-
kind of crack it and then go from
Or
there.
flip it. It's taking the pressure off Jimmy.
Yes, definitely that. Yeah. That guy needs some weight off his shoulders.
Like I think that's the biggest thing. Whereas you want, so I guess we kind of like go back full circle and you say you want all of this is to say you want less from Jimmy and you need more from everybody else.
Yeah.
However that may be. So we're going to end this episode here. I want to thank everybody for coming out, watching. I want to thank you guys for being on. And let me just say, you are heard, you are seen, you are loved. Thanks, Brian.
Hell yeah, guys. No.
I make beats in bed
That was
and I
fun.
don't need nobody else. I make beats in bed and I don't need
I hope you
nobody's
enjoyed it.
help. I don't need your fancy studio. I'll do this shit myself.